Kevin Owens, host of the Overseas Famous podcast, here to personally invite you to subscribe to our official Patreon. Are you guys ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? Well, with our Patreon, you can do just that. And the best part, pricing starts at just $1. It's like a pack of gum. Less per month. By becoming a Patreon member, you'll unlock a world of amazing perks. We're talking merch giveaways, signed items by our guests, shout outs on the podcast, exclusive content, and so much more. Not only will you guys get to connect with me and the Overseas Famous community on a deeper level, but you'll also gain access to behind the scenes content and early episode releases. So don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Join our Patreon today and become part of the Overseas Famous family. Together, we will make podcast history. Thank you for your support and can't wait to see you on Patreon. Welcome, everyone, to the Overseas Famous podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. We are joined today by Travante Williams. Travante currently playing in Portugal, about to win a chip. Hopefully, with the chip is starting on Sunday, so we're very excited for his progress. And we're very excited to have him on the show. Travante, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciative to be here. Shows I'm almost famous or something like that.
We're there. And it was funny when we came up with the title, like Almost Famous was there. I was like, yeah, that's kind of like we're right there. Like we're you know, I always tell the story of when I was playing, when I finished. I'm walking off the court in Estonia. Kids are like asking for my jersey. They're like, can you sign my jersey? I'm like, of course, I'm signing. I'm like, this is an incredible experience. You're like going out. The club's like, thank you so much. It's just a great experience. We walk off the court winning the last game. And like 4 days later, I was back in Philly walking through the airport and someone's like, you should play for the Sixers. I was like, what a fucking great idea. I was like, I haven't thought of that.
I think you're right.
Yeah. But we're very excited to hear your story today. So can you kind of share with us your journey as a basketball player from your, playing, collegiately, then you end up in Portugal, and what you've done since then to become a naturalized Portuguese citizen playing for the national team?
Right. All right. Where do we start? Okay. So for starters, never was the basketball player that was supposed to be the guy or anything like that. Played 1 year of high school basketball, found my junior college on Google, and then made it through college like that way. So I'm from Alaska. So I was traveling already, went to school in California for 3 years, went to a school in Colorado, then finally went back to a school in Alaska. And that's where I started to get my game right. And going overseas was just like, I didn't even really think about it at first. I had a couple coaches tell me about overseas basketball. I played against a couple players, but I didn't really care. I was just more like, whatever the next opportunity is, I'll do it. I'll take it. So I connect with a friend. He's going overseas. He connects me with his agent. And then 6 months later down the road, I get a call like, hey, come to Georgia. Let's play for $300. And I'm like, all right, yeah, Georgia, well, let's do it. So get to Georgia. I'm in the bottom league. I'm in a team that's like not in the big city. But I didn't really care. My whole thing was like, if they find me or if I'm good enough, they're going to find me. So that always was my mindset, even going through junior college and college. And then when I got to pro and we're traveling, I'm thinking I'm in the big city. When I first get to Georgia, I fly into Tbilisi. So I think I'm in the major city. That's where I'm going to be staying at. Then the next day comes up, man, they drive me like 3 more hours into this small city. I can see like pigs and stuff walking around. So like, the whole dynamic changed, but played there for a couple months and actually did pretty well. Was averaging like 35 points, had a couple of game highs, career highs with 50 points and 48. So it was like a good experience for me to get my feet wet. But knowing the overseas basketball and how there's like so many different levels to it, after that season was over, I ended up getting my first like kind of actual contract here in Portugal.
That's incredible. It is a lot of people will almost turn down their noses at going to a smaller place, going to a smaller division, not getting paid a ton. But you always have to pay your dues. I talk to a lot of people in overseas basketball. Everyone kind of has to pay their dues. And
mandatory.
It is. And people, it's like we are in a society of instant gratification. We have information that we instantly need to know. But having that ability to be like, you know what? I'm going to go rock this league and then I'm moving up. And that's exactly what you did. And that's such a great quality to have as a player, to be like, you know what? I know what I can do. I'll rock it here for a little bit, but I'm going to be up here in the time being. So that's really admirable.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because now that I think about it, it's like I was going with the flow just based on like I went to a Division II, I went to junior college, so it's almost like I didn't have enough self-confidence at the time, so I'm like, I'll take what they give me, and then like I like to travel, I like to be around new people, and like my personality's like that, so I can go in any room and feel comfortable. So I didn't even really know I was at a low level. You couldn't tell me. I didn't know. I just was doing it, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Like I like it. It's love it. And then finally, like people had to tell me, like, yo, there's a whole nother world out there that you don't even know about.
It's really true, but you found it. You found that way, and now you're playing for a chip.
Yeah.
When you kind of so you go to Georgia, you're there for a few months. How did you adapt to that kind of culture? You had said you like to travel, and you kind of just talked about how you were just like, this is awesome, I'm here. You weren't looking at it as a downgrade. When you got into a new culture, was it like culture shock, or were you like, this, I'm rolling with this is going to be dope?
It's interesting because it's like there was like, okay, I'm cool with people, I meet some good guys. There was another American there. When we go play games, we see some Americans have some, chit chat about different things. But then like the culture, like I didn't leave the house for like 3 months. Like I was literally, because I didn't know there was nowhere to go. I didn't really know what to do. It's like my first year overseas. I'm like, okay, I'll go for a walk or something. But like the people necessarily weren't speaking English. So it was like, you kind of have to like make your own way, sort of saying, like, thank God for like books and the internet, because that's the only thing that really kept it going for that time.
No, they always say, get out there and explore. And it's tough, especially when you have a job. You're like, okay, I'm exploring the basketball. And it took me a while to really feel like, okay, I can go out and I can start moving around. I can start exploring, because you're like, okay, I'm done practice. I'm freaking exhausted. I need some downtime. Now we have another practice or something else. And it's like, it's a tough to explain to someone who's there on vacation, who goes overseas on vacation, compared to someone who's there for a job. And we're there for a job.
Think that we're on vacation. Like, you go meet people all the time and they like, why are you living here? Like, they think that the way your lifestyle is set up, that you're on vacation, not knowing that like, I got to go to work. And then I'm thinking that I have to go to work before, like right when I get home, I'm thinking, oh, I got to go to work. I'm setting my alarms already to be on time for the next day, when like I got 7 hours of free time with nothing else to do.
Yeah. It's something that people don't think about. It's wild. And like people
just
like a vacation.
They overlook it. They overlook it all the way. Like, oh, you're living the greatest time. Like, it's diet. But like, there's so many players, especially like, and there's so many different obstacles and hurdles that you got to get over. And depending on which club you're at or which country you're in, there's so many different things that can go down, and people only see the whole thing. And yeah, it's part of the business, man. It's how it goes.
When you jumped from league to league, you're in Georgia and then you move on to Portugal. When you jumped from league to league, did you notice any differences in, the playing style, in, terms of your teammates, things like that? Was there something that you're just like, okay, this is a different place?
Yeah. Well, my first year, I can remember getting picked up on like a big bus. And trust me, like now that I look at it 6 years later, I'm like, that wasn't even the best bus. But that first bus they put me on, I was making a Snapchat video like, Mom, they got me on a new bus. We're moving on up. Like, I can remember the feeling I had when I'm like, I'm getting on a bus, like a big bus. Because in Georgia, we were riding in like vans 3 hours in through the snow. And I still didn't care. Like, I was like, oh, this makes the movie so dope. This like makes a good story to tell. But yeah, moving to Portugal, when I started seeing big names, I started seeing guys that went to school with NBA players. And I was like, oh, wow. He went to the NBA. Oh, he played for the G League or the D League. And like, he's here with me now playing against me. And then, so you hear the stories from your other teammates about what other guys are making and what they're doing. So then your mind starts to race like, wow, like I'm really here. I'm really in this space playing against this guy. And yeah, that was the turning point for me when I start to see the bigger names, and like, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm really here.
Yep. It is a surreal moment. And they realize real quick, like, where you went to school doesn't really matter. Like, your smaller school guys are kicking some big school guys' ass, and you're like, listen, we're all.
That was my motivation when I used to find out what schools guys went to. Like when we used to come out and play, I used to be pissed at them because I felt like I'm at my first job, my first team in Portugal was like top four. You know what I mean? Not and on the bottom four, like not the top team. So
Mm.
there was two other teams that were better than us, like way more budget, bigger budgets, way more money, and like so I'm looking at them like, oh, you guys went D1, we're playing against each other, and you guys are like getting more money than me, but I'm like, I'm killing you. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it was both. I was like, okay, I'm just waiting, but I had a chip on my shoulder that whole time.
The cool thing about your story, not only did you make it overseas as a player playing in overseas leagues, but you became a naturalized citizen in Portugal,
Yeah.
which we talk a lot about. That's one of those ways to really keep your foot in overseas basketball. If you can get citizenship and become off that, you almost check off like, I'm not on the books anymore of the import side. I'm over here on the natural of like an actual Portuguese player. And that's huge. Can you walk us through that process of you becoming a naturalized citizen in Portugal?
I was started off so it all goes with my like the winning part of my career. So first year we get there, paired up with some great guys. We win a championship. Off the first year, we beat the number one team. You know, we ended up taking the number one seed or something like that, but we won a championship that we weren't really supposed to win. We weren't favored. Second year, we come back and we do it again. So this is 2 years like the team that's not supposed to do it wins and beats the teams with the bigger budget. So it's 2 years back to back we win, and from there, that was kind of the beginning of like, and it goes all on the show like. As a player and as a person, you can't just be a basketball player. So a lot of the things that is like, there's been plenty of basketball players that play in this country for X amount of years, and they've had, you know, they've been here 5, 6 years and stuff like that, and they didn't get presented with this opportunity to be part of the national team. So I think it goes to show part of like the showmanship of how I carry myself as a player and the attraction that people feel with it, and like the attraction the league felt with it. Because like my first 2 years, like the next guys you were getting to like recruit, you were thinking about me. So it was like the process was like, okay, I was being myself as a player and I was doing good and we were winning. And then there's obviously like a time period of which you can obtain your passport legally or whatever like that. So yeah, I just fell in love with the process of winning, being here, and then like kind of bought into the dream of like, so I won 2 championships back to back with a team up north, and then I moved down to the bigger city. So it was like the kids going to the big city now, you know what I mean? So, and this is a new team, this is brand new, you know what I mean? They haven't been in the league for 20 years, but they're a top tier club in Portugal. So getting here was like, oh, this is new for me. And I just kept going with that process, trying to win, trying to do better than what I did last year. And they brought it to me. Like it was like I earned it at some point in time. It was like I was a great candidate to. I've been here long enough. I'm familiar with the language, the cultures. You know, I love the culture, I love the people, and I feel like they love me too. So that was the kind of the process. And yeah, it's not easy for every single player because they're looking for like you. The biggest thing is, can you buy in to the culture? You're like joining somebody else's culture, like their whole customs and everything, and like you have to be accepting to that. And I find that in most players, like they get overseas and they don't want to adapt to the culture. They don't want to eat, like give it a hug. And yeah, that's one of those things, man. I tell a lot of guys that I talk to, man, you gotta buy in. There's gonna be things that you don't like. There's gonna be things that they do that you might not, you know, it might not be your flavor or where you're from, but you gotta look past that and understand that, you're in their house. Like, be respectful, be like this, and you know, try to explain yourself the right way. So that was the process of getting to where I was at. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Sorry. All right. So there's so many stories of guys, because you just hit it on the head with like the embracing the culture, like
Yeah.
having that embracing the culture. You talked about it because there's so many guys that go overseas and they don't really understand that specific trait. They don't understand like you are a stranger in someone else's land. It's like you kind of get like, hey, I'm playing, this is my life. They're gonna adapt to me. When we're the ones who have to adapt to them because we're in their home. And that's like the quick. I always say it's the quickest way to get sent home. Like the
Oh,
quickest way to
sure.
get sent home is to
Sure.
not respect the culture.
I've seen countless of guys get sent home, get waived. Real talent. Because as Americans, typically as Americans, like we're coming over as imports. We're probably going to get paid more than the domestic players, and we're going to get receive more like fan love. Like there's guys that played here their whole careers in the country, and they don't receive the same fan love as an American player will come in and get. So it's man, it's like breaking out of that comfort zone that you built to get you where you're at. Like there's a lot of players that like, I had to be this way to get this way. This is how I've always been like this. This is me. This is me. Not understanding that you can like become more. Not like you got to change anything. Like all my past, everything that I've been through, I'm not having to change who I am. I'm just gonna have to like add more onto it. I gotta get a left hand. You know what I mean? I have to do this within like dealing with people because it's important. Like right now, my biggest task is like fluently speaking the language so I can adapt and be more sociable with other people and get into different rooms and stuff like that.
No, and that's great because when you talk about the naturalization process, and you have to really connect with the local community, engage with the culture and things like that. When you were doing this, was the team helping a lot of that bureaucratic stuff, or were you a lot of hands-on, like having to go places, fill out forms, answer questions, etc., or is it more of a, hey, we'll help you, guide you through this process?
I think I would say my personality kind of brought that. I'm the guy that's out there talking to the people. I want to see what they want to talk about. I'm trying to speak the language, messing up and not being like embarrassed about it or anything like that. So I took the step to embrace the culture first because it's a dope culture. They got the beach everywhere, man. It's like the weather's great. Like how can I lose out here? So my mindset was always, man, I've been a lot of different places, so I like to go meet new people, and man, the people out here are great. They treat you well, so that's the whole that was the steps for me.
Has when you talk about becoming a Portuguese citizen and representing, what does it mean to represent the Portuguese national team when you come from another country, but you have now adapted and are part of this community? How proud do you feel to represent the Portuguese national team?
Man, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like when I first like got the word about it and everything like that, it was a long process. It was a couple-year process. And once I once I realized that it was like real, the first time when they first told me, I didn't think it was real. I was like, they're playing with me, like they might not, because then the COVID happened. So after COVID and stuff, it's like, are they really serious? Like, is the world? I didn't even think basketball was going to be coming back how it did. So um throughout that, man, I was it makes me feel like, it makes me feel loved, number one. It makes me feel respected. It makes me feel like the hard work that I put in didn't go unnoticed. And all the sacrifices that I made throughout my whole career, going to JUCOs, all these different schools, like it paid off because there's so many different, I'm in a different class of players, overseas basketball players. They go play in plenty of different countries, but they won't be like, I can live here. You know what I mean? Like I can,
Yeah.
this is where I plan to live for the rest of my life when it comes to like when I'm older, like get business here and be living here. Like it's like it was a safe haven. It was a steal for me, man. Like it was just like, I love them. I'm thankful. So when I get out there and I'm on that court, I feel it. Like I want to play for this country. Like because we know in the States getting on the USA team is like nearly impossible if you're not coming out like the biggest school in the world or you're not in the NBA. So being able to represent for a whole country and then seeing how this culture or these people, like how they fight and understanding their culture helps me be a better player on the court dealing with them.
No,
Going
you're
country versus different countries, and it's like, I'm fighting with these guys signed me. I'm a mercenary, but they signed me and I'm with these guys. You know what I mean? So that has been a blessing, man.
it is a really cool experience and a unique experience because there's so many, like European basketball is such on the rise, and we talk about Joker and Luca and Giannis and Victor, when like these guys are coming out and it's really a strong European presence in the NBA. Now that you kind of have the opportunity to compete against them, that's a pretty cool thing to be like, all right, this is who I'm representing. And guess what? In a few weeks, I might have to go up against Giannis or Joker or Luca because we're all part of the Euro chip. And it's like, it's a fun experience because you are now part of that whole entire team. You're part of that European,
Yeah, it boosts.
family.
We just got our last thing we went to Bulgaria and we played against Bulgaria, and Sasha Vezenkov is the EuroLeague MVP. So I'm mid-season getting to play against the EuroLeague MVP, and then I get to come back to Portugal. So like my mind, I'm like, yo, I can't. I've just played against the best in Europe. Like he's the best. So it's like that experience right there, just playing against so many different players and gaining that respect. It's like, man, this is nice. This is really what it is. I really do enjoy playing that European competition. That's the real fun part.
Getting were there any unique opportunities that you were able to be part of? Meeting, I all I'm thinking of is like the most famous athletes in the world when we look at it, obviously LeBron, but soccer's so big, or football is so big that you have like the Messis and the Ronaldos, and Ronaldo being a Portuguese citizen. Were you ever able to meet or greet or be part of something where like, you're like, holy shit, this is like I'm representing the same place as Ronaldo?
Now, it's crazy. He started his career off at my club, Sporting Club.
Sporting, yep,
That was the
yep.
first club playing for. So I haven't met him in person or anything like that, but it's like you're like one person away. Like the next person has met him before, or she might know his auntie, and I've worked out with this person. So it's like, you're really close to it, but I haven't met him per se.
It is a fun experience because you look at like some of these top athletes, and you don't really. I feel like as athletes, we're not really. I mean, I never was. I played against Kobe, and there's like guys like my brother was in camp with LeBron, and you're like, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
But it's like weird when it's other sports. Then you're kind of like, holy shit! Like if I saw like Ronaldo or like some of these big time Mbappe, I'd be like, oh shit, there he is. Like it would be a fun experience. LeBron, I'd be like, hey, I can do what you can do. Not on your level, but I understand you. I can't even do what you're doing. It's fucking awesome.
You get a real appreciation for other sports once you start to see it at the professional level. It's like, man, they're really doing that. And at this rate, like, oh, wow, now I really see what's going on here. I get it.
Yeah. When you're with your teammates, when you went from an American import to a Portuguese naturalized player, was there any adjustments in terms of your leadership? Was there any adjustments in terms of how you had to play? Because now when you switch over to this side, there's another American coming in, and now you probably have multiple Americans that you're juggling, team and passing and shots and things like that. And were you ever looked at like, oh, he's Portuguese, or were you like, no, this is my show?
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate enough to be in this club for like the last 4 years. So I've been the only American that's kind of stayed the last four years at this club. So anybody comes in, they're meeting me, and I'm the ambassador. So it's like they meet me on the American side, and then I'm like cool with the Portuguese guys all the way through. So like I'm on both sides of the fence. But the biggest thing for me, I wouldn't say like coming back to my club was there was any like differences or anything, but going to play for the Portuguese national team with all the players that I've already played. They've seen me for 6 years. So all the national players, they've watched my career over the last 6 years. And it's like, it was different getting, like there was some younger guys. We got a guy that's in the NBA. And it was just like, for me, it was like going to school all over again. Like I wanted to be the best, or I wanted to like try to impress myself. You know what I mean? The people around me, I was like on my game to where I didn't want to step on anybody's toes because I haven't been here. But as we got to like the second round, or we did more, is like you get more comfortable with the guys, you get more comfortable on the basketball court. So now I think I'm pretty good going into the summer and the things that we got going.
Yeah, that real camaraderie that develops. But like you said, you've played against a lot of these guys before. It's not like you're surprising them and all of a sudden you're showing up and they're like, who's this guy? They're like, I know him. He
that's crazy because like, play well with some of the guys. Like some of the guys, we work well, like because we've been competing against each other. So when you get to like, you're going to, man, and the national team is set up so nice. It's like you go eat together, you go home, you go train together. Everybody comes, and it's like all together. So you really get to get there was guys I didn't like before I got on the national team. And then like I see them on the national team, like, oh, you're the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. Like, I love you, dude. Like, so those things that happened to me, and it's like, this is one of the most special things that's ever happened in my entire life, is like playing for the Portuguese national team.
It is you. It is very difficult to separate on court personalities from off the court personalities. You really get that sense when you start talking to some of these guys that you're like, wait, you're not a dick? Like you are a
Uh,
complete dick on the court, but you're a cool dude. Like it's a weird feeling. And
it's
you're
all
like,
that perception. It's all perception because I may have seen him as a dick, but he was probably a nice guy. But I was already pissed at him. I might have hit the way he said a scream, something like that, and it just changes. But then it's so funny because we still have to go play each other. So we do this national team stuff. Like I'm in the finals with guys that I play against the national team. Like it's or play with on the national team. So now we got to see each other, and it's like it's hard, man. It's hard. Like I want to take your head off, but I know I got to come play with you in a month. So we're gonna be back friends after this.
I watched Ted Lasso. I didn't see the finale yet, but I watched Ted Lasso. It was like that's a very Ted Lasso moment where there's like the guy who plays for Mexico and then the guy who plays for Canada, and they end up playing each other. And it's like they end their last game. They're like, good job. And it's immediately like, he's like, screw you, you're my enemy. And it's like a crazy way that some of these guys are able to compartmentalize that and be like, you're cool here. I hate you here. It's like wild because you have to have that, really constant battle that you're gonna be able to go through.
Overseas club culture is kind of like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are rivalries that like you're not supposed to be their friends, so to say, even though like you're friends, but like you're not supposed to be. Your clubs hate each other. You know what I mean? So if you're from a fan's point of view, it's like, dude, you're not supposed to be this guy's friend. You're not supposed to wear that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's very 90s era NBA. Like this
Oh,
today, yeah, today, like guys are all friends off the court. That 90s era, you're like, I think that guy fucking hates each other. Like they really didn't. I was like, I'm on a docu-series kick. So I rewatched The Last Dance. And like, man, Jordan's still he's like holding up like Isaiah. I'm like, dude, these guys hate each other, and it's been like
yeah.
30 years. They don't care. They hate each other.
I can to a point of this. I had a year after COVID, and just there was no fans and nothing like that. And it's one of the most difficult years. But like going through the finals and like the mental stress that I put on myself from about to go compete against guys that became my friends later, it was like, oh, I might not like this guy anymore. Cause I remember thinking like, yo, this is the last dance. If I don't win this game and this guy's in the way, and if I got to go through him, I have to go through him. And now we're friends. So it's like I can see where if somebody could hold a grudge if it's like, man, you put me through a lot, man. You put me through a lot.
How has basketball, and you talked about your younger life, you started in Alaska, went to junior college, really had to bust your ass to get in the door. How has the sport shaped you as like an individual and like influenced your perspectives, influenced how you view the world based on your ability to travel and just what you've accomplished from where you started to currently where you are?
Man, it's just been it's my whole career has been like it's like my life's testament when it comes to basketball. There was like you wasn't the guy that wasn't I wasn't the superstar. There was plenty of even in Alaska, not a lot of guys go Division 1 or anything like that. So there's guys already ahead of me, and I'm just I'm in the streets, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, but I'm not focused on basketball. And as like basketball started to get better, and I started to work more, that's what really like separated everything. I started to work more, and I learned about myself. Like, oh, it's not my fault. I can make something happen. Like I can work and make something happen for myself. So as basketball started to get better, that was the movement. That was the motion that went with it. It was like work, just keep working, just keep working. You're gonna find something. Like they're gonna find talent. Talent's gonna get found. So for me, basketball has just taught me, like, even like it's so funny because like my game is kind of like a little rough around. You know what I mean? Guys will say, "Oh, you play with so much passion." I might get teed up or something. I'm almost like Rasheed Wallace's cousin, but it's like they will that like becoming a man and understanding the different levels of basketball. It's kind of like it's all tamed itself down. Like, okay, well, you shouldn't necessarily be mad. You're only mad because maybe you're embarrassed about what just happened. You got to get back on defense because you got to persevere through life. You got to keep going. So all the little lessons that you learn in the game, staying on defense, getting back on defense, next play mindset, all this type of stuff boils over into like real life and for my life. And that is, man, it's been everything for me. I can't even say nothing about basketball in a negative sense because besides like getting hit and stuff like that, messing up my face, like everything else has just been a blast, man. Everything.
It's crazy because you talked about the what is going on with your career and how you made your way there. And we are in a culture now, especially in America with like AAU, where people think if you're in fifth grade, if you're not on this high level team, that you have no shot. And I don't know if there's some kind of like step people miss where they're like, oh, I don't understand that, like, people are going to continue to evolve and get stronger and bigger. And if some people are late bloomers, like, people just don't understand. They're like, if you're not here, you're not going to make it. And I always say what you just said: if you are good enough, they will find you. If you are good enough, they will find you. And I think that's what you just hit on right there.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be it. There's gonna be a lot of like disappointed parents in the next 5 to 10 years, just off this AAU culture and what they're pushing. Like every little kid has a highlight tape video going out every day, and I mean, like I understand you're trying to like market your child and possibly change your future, which is understandable, but there's gonna be so many missing points to what the kid is actually. He's gonna be playing like a highlight reel. He's gonna be thinking like when out like there was no playing outside. They're not playing at the parks anymore, just trying to get down and dirty. And I think that side of the game is going to be missing. That waking up at 5 in the mornings and going to go work out with no cameras and doing that consistently, and putting in the real work that like comes down in the fourth quarter when it's game's tied and you got to get a stop. Like I think that's going to be part of like what a lot of even the guys in the NBA, some of these guys, the young guys with all this talent and stuff like that, like they are missing the whole essence of the game that like started basketball, started fights around basketball. It's like this is what people are arguing for. This is the 90s fandom right here. Like, and people miss it. And that's why you have all these teams that are like super good, and these guys that are super talented, but like they're just gonna be playing in the NBA or playing this place without winning anything or they don't have that desire. And I think that's we're killing it with the cameras, we're killing it with the phones, we're killing it with the make my child go deep, because I had that pressure too, and I had less social media. I wanted to go Division 1. I thought if I didn't play if I didn't go Division 1, I wasn't going to be too much of anything. But for me, it was like, well, if you don't go Division 1, I'm not going to go back home. I'm not going back to my mom. So at least let's just go over here and figure it out. Like at least figure it out. That was my whole thought process.
Like I said, I'm on a docuseries kick or documentary kick. So I watched the Redeem Team after obviously The Last Dance ended, and I'm like, I need more. So I watched the Redeem Team, and it was the same thing. They talked about how Kobe, like they're all that younger generation of players is all coming in from the club at like 4 a.m, and Kobe's getting ready to go work out, and it's like, oh shit, like it doesn't, when you're constantly in a structured basketball situation and you don't know how to just do it on your own and figure it out on your own and figure these things, it's going to be a struggle. And like you said, there's a lot of things that are happening in the NBA where guys are not prepared for certain things because they just are like, they just don't have that thought process.
And they're not like they don't have too much guidance around them. I mean, like I think a lot of this stuff that I learned, I had to learn it on the fly. Not a lot of people, not a lot of older players were able to tell me the things that I was telling them or the things that I've learned now. There's only a couple guys that were able to tell me this. So it was like, for me, I look at it like, there's just a lack of guidance down from the top to the bottom. And the guys that were eating and really having like successful careers, they were almost like keeping the knowledge for themselves because like they're still at the top and they're still doing the things that they're doing. And there's not a lot of reasons. It's not all about talent. It's not all about how you play. There's a lot more things that go on. It's like, are you shaking the hands of the people? Because people talk. When you're in these clubs, especially these big clubs, people are going to talk. You're going to be seen. People are going to whisper about your character. And it's better for you to kind of be on unless you're just an amazing talent. Like one thing they'll forget about a lot if you're just an amazing talent. But the whole thing is, man, you gotta keep your character good, man. You gotta keep your character card real nice, and you gotta go reflect that on the court. You have to play with some sort of passion, some sort of desire, because that's what like makes people like attracted to the sport.
So, final question: when you look ahead to your future, what are your aspirations and goals, both in your basketball career and beyond? And like, how do you think you can leave this impact of basketball and leave a legacy for yourself? Like, what do you see happening for the rest of your career and beyond in your career in Portugal or wherever your travels take you?
Winning is number one. Wherever I'm at, I just want to win. You know, I want to play around when it comes to the basketball side. I want to play around good vibes and good people and just turn things like the same thing I've been doing. Go to places where they're not necessarily expected to win and just turn things around and make people believers. And as far as like after basketball, it's more so I know basketball is going to lead me to where I need to go. I want to make the right investments. I want to be involved in a lot of different things, especially in Portugal. And I also like the main thing too is to give back to these guys that I say that don't have this guidance and they don't have this knowledge. And I want to almost present. I want to put them in a almost like a facility or something to guide them, man. Like, because my biggest thing is like after getting all this knowledge and like learning through these experiences and bumping my head, it was like, man, if somebody could have told me, maybe I still would have made the wrong moves, but at least somebody told me. So establish something where I can connect with other people, connect with the youth, and pass this message on, man, and let them know. Because a lot of players, there's so much talent that goes unnoticed, and they go to college, and then maybe they're really good talent. I wasn't the best talent. That's my biggest pitch. It's like I wasn't the best talent. I'm just now. I feel like if you ask me right now, like turning and going into my 30, yeah, I'm about to be 30, going into 30, like, yeah, I want to be. There's so many things that I can still do better. I can still get extra work in, extra reps in a whole bunch of different places. So it's like what they see now in my career is like, I still have a lot more to go, a lot more to do and build as a person. And if you do the right things and you follow this game and you work, you'll be in the right place you need to be, man.
Well, Travante, this has been a great experience. It's been fun sitting down with you, especially because I think we've interviewed hundreds of people. This is the first time I feel like I've ever interviewed someone who's currently like about to be in a championship. Like there's been off season or in the middle of the season, never were for the chip. So this is a fun experience. So we're rooting for you. We're hoping to get that chip, and we're very excited.
It's a steep hill, but we got it. We got it for sure.
I love it. Well, Travante, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck. We will be in touch, and that was awesome, and we really appreciate it.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This has been the Overseas Famous Podcast. I'm Kevin Owens. We will see you guys next time.